Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to Ankura Knowledge Hub, sessions taken by pediatricians and gynecologists and surgeons regularly over on this platform, in this Knowledge Hub. Coming to the burning topic of the day, we believe there's a lot of information which needs to be given as far as the childhood vaccination for COVID is concerned. So we thought, why don't we dwell information as far as COVID vaccination, because a lot of parents have got apprehensions about when to give, should we give immediately or should we wait? So I think the next 20 minutes, I want to dwell on information for why we need vaccines, for what is the purpose of vaccinations for COVID is concerned, and does it really help children in a longer run, and how far is it protecting, and can children resume school or not properly or not? Right. So, let's start off with my presentation straight away. Coming to COVID-19 vaccination in children. Why is that we require vaccination in children? First and foremost, what we need to understand it, how did COVID evolve over a period of these last 1 to 2 years? Our life was never the same for the last, 2 years back. Children were always going out, going to school, going to, malls, going to parties, playing around with friends. Their lives were totally different. And you see in last 2 years, for no fault of theirs, their life has become turned upside down. Now they cannot go to schools, they cannot go to parties, they cannot go out, they cannot play with their friends with confidence, and any signs of fever, cold, cough in children would create a panic among parents about what my child would be suffering from. Is it COVID or is it not COVID? That's the situation which India moved through. I think it started in the month of January 2020. And then it started picking up from March 2020 onwards, and we had surges of cases. Initially we were not sure how children would be affected and how adults would be affected, and what we have seen is during the initial surge it was the old age population which got affected, but what we have realized that the younger population, actually even they are infected, they didn't have any severity of symptoms. That was the initial strain what we have got, Wuhan strain or whatever we call it. Then it went on for a certain period of time. We were not sure about the medicines and stuff like that. And later on, because the virus keeps on, spreading across various populations across the globe, and the longer it stays in human population, the longer it starts spreading from one human to another human, they start, mutating itself. So a lot of new mutant strains started developing. Either they have weakened out or they have started becoming smarter. And of these, a few strains have really become significant, and they were the reason for the resurgence of these infections. So what we have seen by the end of 2020 is slowly there was a resurgence because of a beta variant. And slowly by the time, in India, by the time we reached March 2021, March or April 2021, it's a Delta variant which took over the world. It started from India and spreading all across the globe. And what we have seen that this Delta variant was, evading everything. Even the drugs were not acting. Even the younger population started getting affected. That was very worrisome. Even people as young as 20 years, 21 years, 22 years also started getting affected, started getting severe lung infection. That's what created a panic among population. And we have seen how bad it was. And it took us some time to come out of it. And that's where the variant started, subsiding, and the new variant started coming. And presently it's Omicron, which is a new variant, which is in initial stages, spreading rapidly across the globe. Still a lot of information we need to know about it. Still it is in starting stages. And what is the data as far as in India as on current date is concerned? In India, nearly 3.5 crore people have been affected and 5 lakh people have succumbed to it. And vaccines actually are helping the process. What are they helping in? They are helping to slow down the spread of virus to a certain extent and allow people to return to normalcy with general precautions. So you need to take precautions as far as a mask and hand sanitization, social distance are concerned, but definitely vaccinations are playing their role in slowing down the virus, slowing down the rate of mutation, and slowing down the spread of infection. That's the reason why, thanks to vaccination, people are coming back to normalcy and people are doing their work, but with certain precautions. And in our country, it's been almost nearly 1 year since the vaccinations have been rolled out, and more than 100 crore people have already been vaccinated. And we are seeing the results that the resurgence is slightly slowed down, but still we have to expect the inevitable when it happens. Only thing is vaccinations only delay the process, but it cannot prevent the spread of COVID or mutation of COVID. It only delays it, and that helps us in due course of time. Of all the what did COVID do for children? So because the discussion is all about the death rate, nearly 5 lakh people succumbed in country, but how many are there? How many of them are children actually? And how did actually COVID affect children during the entire stay? See, of all the disaster the COVID has created, children are the least affected by the disease directly. I'm saying the word directly because yes, definitely as a symptom, as an infection, it did not affect children really badly. All the children who got infected with COVID had got very minimum symptoms. In fact, their symptom score is less than the regular viral infections what we pediatricians normally see. The other viral infections, actually children suffer more compared to what they suffer from COVID. Younger the child, what we have seen is the amount of symptom score is less. Older the child, the amount of symptom score was more. And when we look at the death rate among children, it is less than 0.7 across the globe. And India is no different. India, in fact, it will be much lesser than that. And most of the children infected are asymptomatic. Here lies the real problem. What problem lies is the child gets infected because of COVID and nobody knows that he's got infected. And what he does, he spreads the infection to the people who are old, people who are immunocompromised, and these are the people who would succumb. So this is what exactly happened during first wave and somewhat during the second wave also. And why is that children are, they're not affected directly by this virus? Because there are 3-4 reasons for that. First, what they have found out is a virus requires a receptor to enter into the body. That's a gateway for the virus to enter into the body. Those receptor cells are called as ACE2 cells. These receptors are low in number in children. They're still in developing stage. That's the reason why older the child, more the symptoms score. So they're low in number. Automatically what happens, the entry of the virus point would be low. When the entry of the virus would be low in count, automatically the replication would be low, the stay in the body also would be low, and the symptom score also will be low. Second is the children's immunity is a well-trained immunity. We always say that children have low immunity. It's not true. The fact it is a developing immunity, no doubt about it. But what happens is it's well tuned with the viral infection. These are the children, especially children below 5 years to 6 years. They suffer from regular viral infection, and these are the children who are recently vaccinated. What happens is immunity is always stimulated. It's in a stimulative mode. So these antibodies are always ready for any attack by the virus. Compared to an adults and older population, who rarely get infection. They get infection after long duration of time. So once the virus enters, it takes some time to multiply before our antibodies actually acts. So well-trained immunity in children actually helps. Third important point, what they have realized is the lung repair mechanism in a child and even the body tissue repair mechanism in a child is very, very high. It gets injured, it's repaired very fast also. So whenever a child gets infection, whatever damage, no matter how much ever damage it does to the lungs recover very fast, repair very fast because they're young lungs. Then circulation is very good. They are very young, the cells are very young. So the repair mechanism also would be very good. That's the reason why these children, even though they're affected with COVID, they won't have severe lung problems. Even if they have, they recover very fast. So they say these are the few causes for which there is less in severity. But the problem in children is not about the physical and symptom score, it is more of a mental problem. Most of the children are suffering from mental issues. Most of these children have become obese. Obesity would be a very big problem. It would become a catastrophe in children. Most of the children are becoming vitamin D deficient. So a lot of other issues which might be long-term. Their learning cycles are completely disturbed. It went back by almost 2 years. So these are many aspects which the children are suffering from rather than the disease itself. So it is our role to see that children come out of it. And despite all the new variants, let it be beta, delta, Omicron is still awaited, children continue to be less affected directly. They are infected, no doubt about it. According to the recent survey which was done by ICMR, they have found out that almost 60% of the children in India have got antibodies for COVID. So that's an interesting thing because what happens once they have got 60% indicates the probability of severity in children automatically goes down no matter whatever the variant enters our country. So what happens with these antibodies is most of the children who have got admitted in the hospital because of COVID, whoever children who got admitted, they're very few and far. Severity in children is really unheard of. It's really very rare, few and far. But whoever have developed antibodies, some of these children developed reaction fevers. These reaction fevers are called as multiple inflammatory syndrome in children. what it did is it causes severe fever in children, especially 2 to 3 weeks after they suffer from COVID infection because of the antibodies. Once these antibodies, what happens because of this antibody, they act against our body. And it happens only in very few children. These children appear very normal, but they have very high fever beyond 5 to 6 days. And all the tests, most of the tests are normal, barring a few tests. So my advice to the parents is, if they see any child suffering from fever, otherwise the child is very, very active, for more than 5 to 6 days, and he had a mild cold or fever like symptoms 2 to 3 weeks back, or the family is turned COVID positive 2 to 3 weeks back, suspect a multiple inflammatory syndrome in those children. So any fever beyond few days in an otherwise active child, suspect this problem, see that the investigations are done as far as COVID antibody is concerned. So these are the children who got admitted, and these are the children actually who suffered more in the hospital setting compared to the other children. And the other children, a few other children who are affected by COVID directly are those children who have got other comorbid features, like children who are known asthmatics, children who are immunocompromised, who are malignancy and they are taking certain drugs, or on steroid therapies because of certain diseases. Their immunity is compromised. These are the children who actually suffered more compared to the normal children. So that is something which we need to keep in mind. So then why? Because the question then comes is, when children have already 66% of the antibodies, and children are affected less, the chances of them getting admitted into the hospital is quite less. Why should children be vaccinated in the first place? Why should we push vaccination for children in the first place compared to adults? Because adults are the ones who are suffering. See, the problem is they are the last block in that puzzle called COVID-19 pandemic. Until unless you fill that puzzle, you fill that block, this puzzle will never be solved. So you have to connect everybody. This virus should not have any host. The moment of amount of host decreases for this virus, the probability of this virus mutating, probability of this virus spreading automatically goes down. So children need to be vaccinated. So they can aid to, what happens is children aid in spread of mutation of virus if left unvaccinated. If all these children are left unvaccinated, this virus has a host always. It keeps on entering from one body to another body and keeps on multiplying and mutating. So you need to stop it. So vaccinating children helps it. Children also help in herd immunity. See, they go to school, group of children. So one child whose immunity spreads the immunity to another unvaccinated child. So more the children are vaccinated, more the society gets a herd immunity and cross-cover protection. So probability of this virus spreading automatically takes a break. And last but important thing is, once the child is vaccinated, the children can get back to their normal lifestyle. The normal lifestyle of attending schools, attending their regular course, playing with friends, learning such special things. All these things are possible because the learning cycle has almost gone back by 2 years, which cannot be, undermined. That's something which we need to keep in mind. So what are the vaccines which are available for children in India right now? See, there are certain vaccines which have been produced. It takes, actually, normally speaking, it takes ages for a vaccine to be developed, especially because most of the vaccines which are available in country even before COVID are for children only. Because you give vaccination for children, they give a lifelong immunity. That's the purpose of vaccinating children at a very young age. And these vaccines, whatever are given to children, have been researched over years together and decades together. And it took them decades to develop one vaccine. And the fastest vaccine till COVID has arrived was Ebola vaccine, which took 5 years nearly to come into the market. So this much time it is to take, but just because the enormity of pandemic was so much that the whole world got its act together and have ensured that the vaccine is delivered to the people in the shortest possible time. So a lot of frameworks have been modified and lot of, industrialization, lot of work has gone down behind. And thanks to the, the vaccine infrastructure which is present in India. So India is actually a vaccine capital of the world. Most of the majority of the vaccines which are given to the world are produced from India. So that's the reason why, we could, gear up and compete with the world in trying to produce an indigenous COVID vaccine for ourselves. And adults, you are seeing that, it's produced in record time, and the amount of protection it is giving, the amount of immunogenicity is also quite commendable. So at the same time, when adults are being vaccinated, a lot of studies started going on as far as children are concerned, efficacy in children are concerned, because they knew that after adults, it's the children who needs to be protected. So there are two vaccines which have, successfully completed phase 3 trials as far as children are concerned. First one is a ZyCoV-D vaccine, which is from Zydus Cadila. which was, a lot of phase 3 trials. Most of their research is in children itself. They have, trialed for children between 12 to 18 years of age. And Covaxin from Bharat Biotech, it is the same vaccine, it's the same dose. It has been given in adults for the last 1 year, and it has been studied really well. And even the child population, they have completed phase 3 trials for all age groups of children between 2 to 18 years. And it is the first vaccine actually in the world which came out, which has been approved for emergency use for ages from 2 to 5 years, because most of the world they are giving vaccination from 5 years upwards onwards. The two vaccines which are approved by the Drug Control Authority of India, yet there is other further approvals are awaited. What is the science behind these vaccines? I'll try to be as brief as possible so that you can understand why these vaccines are given and how these vaccines actually work in protecting our children against COVID in future. Because once we are giving a vaccine, we should know how actually it protects. So coming to ZyCoV-D vaccine, it is approved for children between 12 to 18 years of age, not before 12, because most of the studies are done for children between 12 to 18 years of age. And it is a DNA plasmid vaccine. See, vaccines are of various types. All vaccines are not the same. See, this is one of a very novel method of vaccinations, that is a DNA plasmid vaccine. Just you might have heard of Pfizer, you might have heard of Moderna in the media, which are nothing but mRNA vaccines. These are the new age delivery mechanisms for immunity, which is being developed. So what do they do here is, they take the spike protein from this COVID, SARS-CoV-2 virus. The spike protein DNA is introduced into a normal commensal like E. coli, and then that is introduced into our body in very small quantities. Once it is introduced, what happens is the DNA of that spike protein of that virus is introduced into our body in the form of a commensal bacteria, introduced into our body. What happens is, our body, which knows E. coli as a commensal, starts producing antibodies against that spike protein antigen DNA, and it produces huge amount of antibodies, large amount of antibodies, and which can be sustained. This antigen will be there in the body for a longer period of time. So the antibodies will produce naturally. It will take it as a natural commensal and starts producing antibody naturally. So DNA plasmid vaccine is one of an innovative method. It's an indigenous, and India should be proud that we have a company which is producing it for the first time. There are almost 6 companies which are producing vaccine on the same platform, and this is the first company which forward all across the globe. And this our company in India was the first one to come out with this type of vaccine. The advantage of DNA plasmid vaccine is it requires very minimum temperature storage. It can be easily stored between 2 to 8 degrees, unlike Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, which require minus 70 degrees, which is quite cumbersome to give it in a national scale. So that's an advantage. So it can be, it is very stable in room temperature, 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. And the dosage which is required as far as the DNA plasmid vaccine is concerned is 3 doses are required. And here 2 mg per dose is given. So what they do is, the other new thing about ZyCoV-D is the innovation in technology of delivery. Normally vaccines, most of the vaccines are either given subcutaneous, means just beneath the skin, or it is given intramuscular. But here they are giving intradermal, and they are trying to make it a painless mechanism. See, children normally suffer a lot as far as vaccine is concerned. They are very apprehensive as far as vaccine is concerned. So they sorted this issue also out. They are giving a special injector here to give it in a painless mechanism in a very small dose of 0.1 ml each arm. So they gave it in right arm and they give it in left arm, 0.1 ml and 0.1 ml through an injector where the child will not even know that the vaccine is given. So they are trying to deliver it in a painless mechanism. And 3 doses are given on 0 day, 28 days and 56 days. So it takes a good 56 days to complete the 3 vaccine schedule in order to provide good immunogenicity. And the immunogenicity starts from first dose itself as far as ZyCoV-D is concerned. And it provides 66.3, whatever phases have been done, trials have been done. What they have found out is almost it provides 66.3% immunogenicity for mild infection, means protection of 66.3. So even if you get vaccinated, nearly only 35 odd 33 to 34% odd people are the probability of them getting infection, that to mild infection. Rest all population will not get infection. Second, what they are saying is all 100% of the population, whoever take this vaccine, probability of them getting moderate or severe symptoms is almost zero. That is what the company, whatever the trials suggest. So the advantage is you take the vaccine, you might get infected to a lesser extent, but the severity of symptoms will not be there. It is as good as a regular infection. And they have already completed the 3-phase trials in almost 26,000 children between 12 to 18 years for the last 1 year. And it is recently approved for usage by Drug Control General of India, and it is waiting for Government of India approval for national immunization. There are certain things which they are looking into. And the production capacity of this vaccine as of now is 10 to 12 crore vaccine per annum, means they produce around 1 crore vaccine per month. This is what they can administer max to the max as of now. They might increase in future. Coming to Covaxin, if you look at it, it is approved already for all adults and children between 2 to 18 years recently there's an approval given, and recently even WHO has given an approval for emergency use for Covaxin. Zycov-D still yet it didn't apply because it's supposed to give it, it's supposed to prove itself, and then the WHO comes into the picture. Already nearly 60 countries are administering the Covaxin as in their national immunization schedule, and it is a whole virion. It's a different. Zycov-D is a DNA plasmid vaccine. This is a whole virion inactivated coronavirus antigen. See what this Covaxin is, to keep it very simple to make you understand, is what they do is they'll take the virus, they will remove the genetic particles within them. The port of the virus will remain with it. It is inactivated. This virus is completely inactivated, means the virus enters our body but doesn't multiply. Once it enters our body in certain quantity, our antibodies recognize that it is a virus and starts producing antibodies against it. So it's an inactivated virus. This is the same mechanism by which polio is given to us, and Bharat Biotech has pioneered this technology of inactivated vaccine for the last 3 decades, and it has been a supplier for the world as far as polio vaccine is concerned. They use the same superior technology in production of this vaccine. The advantage of it is the side effects would be very minimum, and immunogenicity would be very good. It would be instantaneous, and children would take it very easily. And here another advantage is it is only 2 doses. 6 micrograms are given every time, and it is intramuscular. So 1 dose is given on day 0 and 2nd dose is given on day 28. And when they look at immunogenicity in adults, what they have found out in phase 3 trials in children also is the immunogenicity is not at all different. Whatever immunity is providing in adults, it is the same immunity is providing in children also across age groups of 2 to 18 years. And what they have found out is nearly 77.8% immunogenicity against symptomatic cases of COVID. Means it is almost providing a protection of 77.8%, and for moderate and severe it gives a protection of 93.4% even. And what they found out, because this has been going on in India for the last 1 year, it gives a protection of 65.3% protection against the Delta variant also. That is quite important because that is something which is quite prevalent in our country. So what it actually tells the story is these vaccines actually provide certain protection against any variant which comes, and that protection itself is enough to protect our children. And it has already completed 3 trials, phase 3 trials for 28,000 adults, and almost 1,000 children have been enrolled. Initially it was 526, and now up to 1,000 children have been enrolled over the phase 3 trials, and across 50 centers in India. So it is an indigenous vaccine produced and tested for Indian population. And very recently, it is approved for emergency usage by DCGI, and it is waiting for Government of India approval. And the production capacity advantage for Covaxin is it can produce 50 crore vaccines per annum, means nearly 4 to 5 crore vaccines per month. So definitely it has got a high production rate. So larger number of children can be immunized with this vaccine. So route of administration, this is something Zycov-D has innovated. They have innovated a painless method. They have an injector called as PalmJet injector will be used. It's an applicator. What they do is the small needles, microderm needles intraderm needles will be used. Children will hardly feel the pain as far as vaccination is concerned. This fixed to it, and 0.1 ml is given in one arm and 0.1 ml is given in other arm. This is a new way. I think future vaccinations would all be in this way. They would be painless and children would love to take it. The amount of crying what the children had initially for vaccination would automatically go down. I believe this technology should stay. As far as Covaxin is concerned, it is the same old method of intramuscular. It can be given on the deltoid region of your hand or it can be given on the thigh. Especially for small children, we would prefer anterior lateral part of the thigh. This is where it can be given on day 0 and day 28. And storage, that's an advantage of Indian vaccines because they are made in India for Indians and keeping in mind the national immunization schedules. It is not possible if you have an ice liner refrigerator, storing it at -70 and taking it across all over the country. It requires a huge infrastructure. It requires a lot of, it is quite cumbersome. It's an advantage that our vaccines are breaking these barriers and providing vaccines which can be stored at a comfortable temperature. That's the reason why world loves our vaccines. Even the efficacy of our vaccines is far superior to most of the vaccines produced across the globe, and which can be carried very easily, and they are quite economical. So coming to Zycode D, it can be stored between 2 to 8 degrees definitely, and Covaxin the same, 2 to 8. And the advantage for Covaxin is got a shelf life of 12 months almost, means the expiry is also quite longer period. So what happens, more amount of vaccines are produced, they can be given for a longer period. You don't need to throw it off. So wastage of vaccination automatically goes down because of this. And what are the adverse effects? Obviously, any children who are vaccinated, any adult who is vaccinated, there will be minimal side effects, not to all the population, but some of the population. We expect redness, we expect pain, sometimes itching might be present, mild swelling might be present, mild to moderate fever can be present for 1 day, and muscle pain can be present, especially in the local area. Sometimes you might develop generalized body aches also. Headache and fatigue can be there, but it usually lasts for a few hours to 1 day, not more than that, even for the best of the vaccinations, whatever we could see as far as Covaxin is concerned. Zycode D also presents the same amount of adverse effects. This is what they project, whatever phase trials they have done. So definitely it is very safe as far as administering it to the children are concerned. It doesn't have any serious effects such as myocarditis and things like that, which are reported with Pfizer. Definitely it's not reported with Zycode D and Covaxin. What are the challenges then? See, why is government not approving it straight away? Why shall not it start away with children? When the vaccines are there, it is approved by the Drug Control Authority. Why is the government waiting? Why can't it, give it off straight away to all the children present? Because the children are not vaccinated and the parents want it. Schools have already started. The problem, real crux of the problem lies here. It is our population. There are nearly 38 to 40 crore children under 18 years of India, 18 years in India. It is roughly 1/3 of the population, 38 to 40 crore. So with the current production rate of 5 crore per month for Bharat Biotech and 1 crore per month for Cadila Zydus vaccines, at this rate, it would take nearly 2 years to vaccinate all children unless they are completely increasing their production or new vaccines come into the market. So once they introduce all of a sudden, if you don't have these vaccines, because you need to cover for 2 doses, mind you, it is for 0 and 28, and for Zyvac, it is 3 doses. So what happens, you get the first dose and second dose, there might be a shortage. Third dose, there might be a shortage because the amount of population is that much. So that's the reason why government is, first taking all necessary precautions. That's the first challenge. Second challenge is the infrastructure. See, in vaccinating adults and vaccinating children are not the same. For children, you need to hold them, restrict them in a separate way. You need specialized people to give vaccine. Not everybody can give a vaccine for children. So pediatricians especially are specialized in doing it, and the pediatric nurses are specialized in doing it. The PHCs who give vaccination for children over a period of time are specialized in doing it, even the ANMs to a certain extent. So people need to be trained as far as pediatric, because different age group provides different challenges as far as vaccination is concerned. So they can't give, right and left, whichever way. It takes time for them to train in order to understand what kind of atmosphere the children needs to be produced, how it to be produced, and how long the child needs to be staying back in the hospital once the vaccination produces, and what kind of specialty, once any problem happens, do they have a facility to treat a child? Because treating adult is different, treating child is different again. So government needs to take care of all these aspects. They can't just give it off because it's a child after all. And second is, the advantage for government is the children are not suffering from a severe disease here. So the government has time as far as administration or starting rolling out vaccines for children are concerned, and not everybody are specialized in it. And obviously the infrastructure as far as childhood vaccination is concerned needs to be built up. As I said, Zyvac D gives it in a different format. The staff needs to understand how it is given. Once they understand, they're trained, then only they can roll out the vaccine. So these are the challenges which India is facing right now. Once these challenges are taken care of, and second important thing is, government also wants to look at the safety profile. They wanted to be 100, because definitely for adults they have rushed through. Luckily, nothing has happened, nothing ever has happened. But as for the children, they wanted to see that everything is looked into, because the time is there. And second aspect is they wanted to cover as much adult population is there before, because what happens once the children come into the picture, some compromised adults and old population might be deprived of this vaccine. So a lot of aspects which our country is looking into before they think of rolling out these vaccines. So as far as recommendation by pediatricians for vaccines, so what do pediatricians recommend? Do they say 2 to 8 anybody can come and take vaccines straight away once the vaccines roll out? First thing is, the challenge is we don't have enough stocks to give it off in 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. It takes a longer period of time, and we need to ensure that every child gets a complete schedule of vaccination. So something which we need to keep in mind. So what we would prefer as pediatricians is, first we should give these vaccines to the immunocompromised children, and children with comorbidity like pre-existing heart problems, pre-existing renal kidney problems, or diabetes or asthmas, or immunocompromised, they are having malignancies, or they are on certain medications which compromise the immunity, or they are written certain transplants have been done for these children. These are the children, or malnourished children as a matter of fact. We would prefer these children to be prioritized as far as COVID vaccine, because these are the children where that virus can cause more problems, that virus can also mutate in them. So that's the reason why these children should be first prioritized as a first priority as far as vaccination is concerned. And then we would prefer children between 16 to 18 years. Why 16 to 18? Because these are almost similar to adults. Their morphology is almost similar to adults, because we have seen that the Delta variant has been quite severe for 18 years and 19 years also. We would prefer the 16 to 18 also to be protected, because we don't want them to suffer with the new variants coming in. We want them to be prioritized, because they are younger population, they might suffer more. And then we follow it up with 12 to 15 years, then 5 to 12 years, the school-going children, and last would be the 2 to 5 years. Would be the order of preference, because 2 to 4 year children are somebody who are well protected. They want to go out. It is with the parents' consent they go out. They can't go out individually. Playing out, everything is in a controlled atmosphere. So we would prefer 2 to 4 years healthy children to be vaccinated the last. And this is the order which we as pediatricians would prefer. But let us see what government would roll out, what government would go, in what order the government would go. But looking at it, we feel that it would be the same order. And when will these vaccines roll out? That's the question, because since October we are hearing the government has given approval, they're waiting for the vaccines to come. A lot of questions being asked to pediatricians. Are the vaccines ready? Covaxin is already there. Can we go and take it? These are all the questions which are acting. As I already said, depends on the adult vaccination rate. Government is waiting for 80%, at least 80% of adult vaccination rate, so that the majority of population is protected. As far as adults are concerned, working population is protected and adults are protected, so that what happens once they roll out for children, there will be adequate staff for the remaining adults also. Even new variant comes, the probability of a pandemic or probability of a lockdown, probability of larger population getting affected would be always low. And obviously they're looking at more safety data as far as trials are concerned. They wanted to check all spectrum of children population, all different types of children population, whether it's working well and antibodies are staying there for a longer period of time. Obviously, training the staff is very important, and vaccine availability, as I said, the stock should be there. The government need to stock up these vaccines before they roll out the program in a larger scale. And let me tell you, India has got one of the largest infrastructure vaccine delivery mechanisms are concerned. Only thing is, training is important. Providing infrastructure at the local level is important. There are people who can go at a larger distances, take all the hurdles to vaccinate children from door-to-door campaign also. So we can vaccinate large amount of children in a very, provided we have the vaccines and we have the infrastructure. But people are there to give the vaccines. Our systems are there in place. That's the reason why we have succeeded in polio vaccination. So we can trust our country as far as vaccinating large amount of children are concerned. Hopefully that day comes very fast, where we have enough number of vaccines and larger number of children are vaccinated and children are protected. And it also depends on the third wave. If the third wave probability is very high, we have seen the new variant coming in. So if the third wave probability is increasing, alarm bells are ringing, I'm sure the government would fasten the process of vaccinating the children also, rather than waiting for them to suffer. This is something I think which we need to keep in mind. Coming to a lot of requests have been kept to me to talk about Omicron, which is a newer variant. I've just kept one slide for it, because I believe the media is giving you enough information as far as Omicron is concerned. So it is also called as B11529. Every variant is given a different name. It is a new variant identified in South Africa. And what happened for this variant is nearly 50 mutations have taken in spike protein. See, earlier Wuhan strain, it was single variant. It has mutated almost 50 times. Now it is a completely, that's the reason why it is spreading from one human to other human quite fast and quite rapidly. Even before we realize we are already infected, even before the symptom score happens to us. So there's a high infectivity rate. But good thing as far as whatever little data, because very small spectrum of population we are coming to know that they're affected with COVID. Whatever little data, it is very less severe. Infectivity rate is very high, it is spreading very fast, but the amount of symptoms, the amount of severity is very, very low to whoever population. So if you look at South Africa, the death rate hasn't changed despite evidence of large amount of Omicron cases being positive in South Africa. That it tells the story that the severity is quite low. So I think as of now, God's grace, keeping our fingers crossed, hopefully it remains the same. We cannot judge it too fast, but definitely, hopefully it remains the same. There are 21 cases as to date of Omicron identified to date in India. And it's too early to comment on severity. We cannot say that nothing will happen. Definitely, we need to keep our guard. And vaccinated people can get infected, definitely, because people believe that your vaccination, you will not get it. Omicron is a type which can infect vaccinated people also, people who have been vaccinated. But good thing is, people who have been vaccinated, what they have found out is the symptom score is far less compared to the people who have not been vaccinated. And data in children as far as Omicron is concerned, will it affect children? Will it cause severity? Data is not known, but there is no severity of children reported in South Africa today. But still, data is yet to be known. So let us keep our guard tight and see that nothing happens. So a lot of common questions which are asked by parents over this period, I thought I would answer in the last slide here. So these are the common questions which are asked as far as COVID vaccination is concerned. So question number one would be, if my child is already infected with COVID-19, can he take vaccine? He's already infected with COVID-19. He has got antibodies. Should he or she take COVID vaccine? I would say yes, please take the vaccine. It would further boost up the immunity in the child, and the long-term protection would be far, far better if a child who is infected and has got the vaccine as well. So don't hesitate, please take the vaccine. That would be good for the children. And can other vaccines be given along with COVID-19? Because children are due for various vaccines in their schedule, especially between 2 to 4 or 5 years also. Should other vaccines be given? Yes, definitely. Other vaccines can be given along with COVID-19. There is no hesitancy. The vaccination schedule need not be disturbed. But only thing is, from one vaccine to another vaccine, we need to keep a gap of 4 weeks. That is something which we need to keep in mind. Can my child resume school after vaccination? Definitely yes. As of now, the children are already 50% of the children, nearly 50% of the children are already attending school. No doubt about it, because they're all not vaccinated. Definitely, once your child is vaccinated, he can definitely attend school, but he needs to take necessary precautions. Precaution should be, because the one thing which we need to keep in mind is, it takes 4 weeks for you to complete the schedule, and it takes a good another 4 weeks for the antibodies to produce. So for Zyvac, I have already said it will take almost 56 days, and then you have to wait another 4 weeks before sufficient antibody levels develop in the body. It takes certain time, but it's always better we are vaccinated or not vaccinated. We always we never let our guard down. And can my child go out without mask after vaccination? This is a common question, because because children, it's very difficult to hold on to the mask. But in my personal experience as pediatrician, what I've seen is children are holding to their mask much better than adults. What we have seen in our clinics are children would love their mask. They don't want to remove their mask. They play with it, definitely, no doubt about it. But once they are disciplined to wear a mask, I've seen them not taking the mask off. So it's how you train them. But definitely, they are vaccinated or not vaccinated, even if they are vaccinated and well protected, still don't allow the child to go out without mask. There is no harm in it. Keep the mask on for a certain period of time. It will help the child. Unless we are doubly sure mask is still on, even with vaccination. If my child suffers from viral infection, how long to wait for COVID vaccination? Yes, if a child suffers from viral infection or any infection, as a matter of fact, it takes a certain time period before his immunity comes back to normal. So we would normally recommend at least 1 week to 2 weeks post a viral infection. Depends on the infection. If it's an infection like chickenpox, where your immunity is severely compromised, we would wait for normally 2 to 3 weeks. If it's a normal regular viral infections like flu, we would wait at least for 1 week to 10 days before we plan for a next vaccination. So at least once the fever subsides, wait for at least 1 week to 10 days on an average before you resume vaccination. Discuss with your pediatrician regarding the infection, type of infection, and how long to wait. A pediatrician would be a better person, but at least minimum period. Regular infections, we would say minimum of 7 to 10 days after the last day of fever. That's what we are supposed to wait before we think. And the child should not be on any, long-term immunocompromised medication. That's something which we need to keep in mind for what purpose it is given. Something which we need to keep in mind immediately once, those viral infections, whatever we give. Let him be off medication, let him be, his immunity absolutely all right, and then we can give the vaccine. Otherwise, immunocompromised children normally also can be given the vaccine, but these children who have suffered from fresh infections, we need to wait. Will the vaccines cause long-term problems in children? So we are worried, vaccine can cause clotting disorders, vaccines can cause joint problems, vaccine can cause myocarditis. Yes, it all depends. Study is still on, but whatever data we have got as far as vaccines are concerned, they are quite safe. Long-term side effects are very, very minimal, and as far as Covaxin is concerned, they're almost zero. And Zyvac, they have already studied in phase 3 trials, and study is still going on. What they found out is definitely it is far safer than most of the other vaccines reported across the globe. And I'm sure once we roll out for children, it would be even more safer than what it is now. So true prevention is not waiting for bad things to happen. It's preventing things from happening in the first place. So prevention is better than cure. So it is always better we prevent ourselves. We are vaccinated or not vaccinated. Mask is mandatory. Social distancing is mandatory. Hand hygiene is mandatory. Maintaining a discipline is also mandatory. So on this note, I thank and thank everybody for attending the session and trying to know more about COVID vaccination in children. So there's a question given here by someone. They asked, my baby is a preterm baby. She's 3 years old. She can take the vaccine. Yes, definitely. There's no doubt about it. Even if the baby is preterm, once she's crossed the 2 years, she's definitely they are eligible. And as a matter of fact, preterm is one of the comorbid if provided as condition is concerned. So definitely they can be prioritized and given the vaccine. Yes. A lot of scientific data, the articles are saying that children who receive flu vaccines are getting minimum amount of COVID infection. There are 2-3 schools of study here, as a matter of fact. Let me dwell information on that. As far as flu vaccine and COVID vaccination is concerned, flu vaccine, first thing is they're given for 3-4 reasons here. First reason is what happens when you suffer from flu, automatically the immunity will be low and co-infection rate would be very, very high. Once that immunity is low, if you're suffering from COVID during that time, the symptom score would be automatically high. That's the reason why what they felt is, if you give flu vaccine for these children and they're not suffering from flu, even if there is a pandemic, a huge surge of COVID infection, the probability of children suffering from severe infection would be automatically low. So flu vaccine helps in that aspect. Second, if you look at the other aspects, technical aspects of it, what happens is you need a lot of beds. Suppose right now, God's grace, children are not affected. They're always predicting that new wave, children can get affected. First it was old age population, then it was young age population. Now children would be affected. It's just a hypothesis. Nobody, it's not a fact. But keeping that in mind, what they felt is you need to have certain infrastructure ready, even if a third wave comes and most of the children are affected. I am sure it doesn't happen. We are very sure it doesn't happen. So how do you keep that? So you have to keep out other diseases. See, flu is one of the diseases which comes during particular season. Majority of the children get treated, come to the clinics, go to the hospitals, get admitted and get treated. So a lot of beds occupied, a lot of clinic space is occupied. So these all can be avoided by giving a flu vaccine so that these beds can be specially, saved for these children if suddenly certain wave happens. Third would be, it would be cumbersome. See, if a child is suffering, because most of the symptoms of flu match with that of COVID in children, it's very difficult for us to differentiate. And it is a burden for the parents, for the doctors, for the health infrastructure, because they would be spending on COVID, trying to find out whether it's COVID or not, and at the same time trying to treat the flu infection as well. So all these aspects are kept in mind, and they said it's better to vaccinate the children for flu, especially for children below 10 years of age. Earlier it was up to 5 years, now they have recommended up to 10 years of age. The second thing, what they have said is all children with comorbidity, it's better to give flu vaccine as well as COVID vaccine. I think, thank you for taking your time out in the session. Hope it's quite useful for you. Please leave your questions or comments. I would love to answer them. Thank you, and have a nice day.